evening. Welcome to boards and commissions. We have our members present today. Oh, please. I'm Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the 5th District. We have Mary Brown, 3rd District Council. Herbert Smith, Councilman at Large. Ron Brewer, Councilman at Large, President of the Council. 1st District Councilwoman Rebecca Wyatt, Councilman at Large Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Council Attorney Renzo Williams, and our financial advisor, Mr. Virgil Moore. This evening we have for boards and commissions vacancies for the redevelopment commission. We have 2 vacancies. Well, their terms are up, so at this time we're going to interview. Well, not interview. We're gonna look over our paperwork, and they're gonna tell us a little something about themselves.
This is for redevelopment?
Redevelopment.
Okay.
Our first person we have is Talithia Denise Barrett. Is she here? No? Okay. We also had a couple of people that decided not to after they found out it wasn't a paid position, so it's maybe one, I'm not sure. Okay, our next person, Clifton Barris.
Here.
Here, please come up. All right. How are you today?
Good, yourself?
I'm great, thank you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself or your interest in becoming a representative for the redevelopment board?
I previously served on the redevelopment board and ended up being vice president at that particular time. And I was just always fond of it, doing the research, going out, making sure that you did your homework. And I always saw it as an avenue, more or less, to be an economic stimulus for the city itself. In other words, just doing what you could, more or less, to get properties back online, increasing the tax base and whatnot. And I just saw a need that if it did come up again, that I would reapply.
So you were there from when to when?
Back in the 90s, I think from about 96. Yes, back when Deputy Mayor Geraldine Toussaint was there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from any of the council?
I'll ask, what was your greatest challenge that you saw on the redevelopment commission at that time? What was the greatest challenge?
The greatest challenge to me was that you had so many people coming in giving proposals to the city about what they wanted to do, how they wanted to revitalize something, but they did not have the money, the feedback and whatnot, to go ahead and accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And it was also a matter of when you went through a proposal that somebody gave you, they were usually looking for something. In other words, they were not prepared, to go through with what they wanted to do in the city.
So in the climate of the city now, what do you see, how can the board assist in the climate where the city is at now?
Basically doing the homework as far as I'm concerned, sir. And when somebody brings a proposal to you, it should be serious. It should be more or less nailed down, because basically all you're doing is just wasting people's time. It's not going to happen unless you've got your finances in order, you've got your planning in order and whatnot. And other than that, you're wasting the board's time and you're wasting the city's time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Question. So you brought some very strong points. So is there, in your opinion, if you should be chosen to serve on this board, would you push a criteria for someone before they come to the board with those recommendations or businesses. So again, they're not wasting the board's time, excuse me, and they're not trying to say, well, I went to the city, but they didn't, they rejected me, when in essence, they weren't prepared to start with. So do you have any recommendation for the board moving forward in a way to handle that? So, the people that will come before the board would be prepared?
Well, the board is governed by state statutes, I understand it, and working with the director, I understand there's a new director now, but working with the director, I would just suggest to him or her that a certain criteria
Right.
be in place for people coming before the board proposing different things. Because other than that, again, sir, you're just wasting time, and you should move on,
Another question. So in other words, something simply is like financing and all those things already prepared, this person having finance and having a business plan, something from a strong standpoint that if they come before the board, they really are prepared.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that's, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Burris?
No.
Okay,
Impressive body of
thank you
work.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
The next person we have is Ty Atkins. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hello, hello.
Tell us about yourself and your interests.
Sure. So my name is Ty Atkins. I live in the 4th District. And so my interest in terms of joining the committee was mainly based on my background. So I have a strong procurement background, which a part of the redevelopment commission is working, managing RFQs, RFXs, RFIs. And so I have over 10 years of experience on the corporate side, managing those, doing contract negotiations, working with vendor management, and would like to kind of bring some type of regimen and process that is used on the corporate side to this particular development as we learn how to better manage our RFP processes. So that was the interest of me wanting to join the planning organization to kind of bring some of that knowledge and kind of help us facilitate that early on from what I've seen in the past.
Questions?
Is that a conflict for us?
So I would
I've already
have to
explained,
resign.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, explain it to me, please.
I discussed with the Democratic nominee for successful election in the 4th District. If in fact she was successful in the November election, prior to being sworn in, she would have to
Have to
resign.
resign, okay. Okay, that was my question.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, what are some of the challenges you think that this board has, if you've watched any of the committee hearings, or if you've attended any hearings, that you feel, if you are appointed to this board, that they don't have now that you could possibly bring to that board?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an accurate challenge, but some feedback that I've heard is just the bid process in terms of how contractors or vendors are obtaining the information in terms of what's available to bid, probably the amount of time that we have the bids open, and then explaining that to individuals in terms of the appropriate way. I'm not sure at the municipal level if we use the Universal Commercial Code to manage our contracts, but that's something that I think that we should look at from a procurement standpoint. So those are some of the key things that I've seen thus far in terms of how we should, things that we can consider just from feedback that I've seen thus far.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
We will have 2 council appointees to the redevelopment commission. How would you relay information to the council?
Prior to me starting my term?
No, if you were selected as the council appointee to the redevelopment commission, how would you relay the information back to the council?
Well, I think a couple of things. If I'm on the committee, then I do attend the meetings, right? So that's one way in terms of us making sure that we have open communication there.
Well, you would attend the commission meetings, right?
Yeah, we have to, right, being a part of it. I
Right.
think that's a part of the requirement.
Right. But then how would you get that information to the council?
To the individuals who are not a part. So I do attend the Tuesday meetings, and I think that I should have access to email. So if we could do a summary after the committee meetings in terms of doing a recap to other additional council members, we want to be inclusive in that. So we'll make sure that even those individuals who are not serving on the committee do in fact receive some type of recap in terms of what was discussed.
And do you understand that if you are successful in November, then you would be on the city council and you would not be on the commission?
Yeah, so I understood that prior to, and the council attorney did explain that to me.
You were saying something about for those who are not on the commission. Well, none of the council members are on the commission. And that's why I didn't know if you understood that or not.
Yeah, Windsor explained that to me, Tony Williams explained that to me.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Peoples here? Burgess? No? Okay. Our next one is Mr. Naaman Flannery.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. How are you today, Mr. Flannery? Please share with us your interest in being a representative for the redevelopment board.
Okay, my interest is to try to increase the employability of the city. We have a lot of young people, middle-aged people, old people, well, senior citizens.
So you said
I take that back.
All right.
Senior citizens,
Okay.
still looking for employment. And for some reason, in the last 20, 30 years, we haven't been up to par in employment for our citizens. And I used to work with Work One, that's an employment and training. And the rules and regulations is built for the whole country. But for distressed cities, it's just hard. It's just hard. I remember one incident when Inland Steel closed. That was heartbreaking. I mean, you had, and they rehired people at two wages, $15 and $17. And some of these people had been making almost $100 a day easily. And that's just was hard. But when we got the casino boats, that picked up a little bit. But now the city, it seems like we're on the comeback. And I'll try my best to help that and increase the employment for the city workers.
Questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
are you currently on the board, Mr. Flannery?
Pardon me?
Are you currently on the board right now?
Yeah.
How many years have you been on the board? You say?
I'm gonna say about 12, 15. Not 15, no,
About
12
15.
maybe.
That's what- Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
One more question. Moving forward, Mr. Flannery, what would you like to do to make the board more efficient than what it is now?
The board,
Yes, sir.
the board take a lot of flack, But, you know, representing the city council, you go by the wishes basically of the city council plus your own wishes. But, more communication between the board and the city council would help.
Okay.
When you say more communication between the board and city council, what do you mean for
I
our
mean,
city council?
individual board members to get your opinion of what you want, how you want it, whatever.
So if we grant you another term on there, what do you plan to do differently that you haven't done?
Do differently. I guess I would try to contact city council members more. Because we have, some pretty large projects coming up, and I hope we can get through it.
That's one of my major concerns. Different things have come before redevelopment, and we have not found out or had the information brought before us to give us heads up what was going on over there. And it's almost redevelopment sits on the island by themselves, so we have little concerns about that.
You said you didn't get much information?
No.
I got several members shaking their heads at the table. No,
When we go to the board meeting, sometime that's the first we heard of it.
that's not
I
good.
mean, big surprises. Everything is, a lot of time, everything is in a rush. Everything. I mean, you gotta hurry up and do this and hurry up and do that, get to the council.
I have a question. As a member of the board, I think that all board appointees, and I think this was something that we as a council said that we wanted or expected from all board appointees, all council appointees, is to report back to us in terms of what was happening with the board. Periodic. And I know there are some people who do it. I know that, well, like Kevin, he's on the BZA. We get reports from the BZA. What happened in the, I get them all the time. I do. What happened in the BZA meetings? We see them in our baskets all the time. And so
BZA
I don't know if there's,
transportation. But
you don't get them from the
You should
no,
get
BZA?
I said
Transportation.
BZA transportation.
Transportation as well. We
I-
get them.
Yeah, get emails too about the meetings
Yeah.
and everything.
Yes, we
As a
do.
representative, I sent out letters and asked all the, please let us know.
Yeah, and that's
No.
one of the things that we have
And-
said previously, that if you were going to be an appointee from the council, that you should get information to us
Should attend
when you have
meetings.
meetings. I mean, just when,
Right.
you know, but I do know that transportation and the BZA, I get those. And I don't know why
get
you don't get them, but I
GPDC.
get them.
I get GPDC, but I don't get BZA.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, my question is, how many times or have you ever communicated with the council, either in writing, well, first in writing, anything in writing, communicated to the council?
Not in writing.
Okay. And if you're trying to get an idea of what the council wants with regard to a position that you would take as a council's appointee, how do you try to gather that information?
Well, let me ask this question. Do you all receive a copy of the minutes?
Not anymore. We used to, but we don't get them anymore.
Well, at one time, I was going to send them out, and they said the secretary of the board said that she would mail them out. So I didn't know you wasn't getting them. Otherwise, I would send you a copy.
And I believe that that is a problem, because
I've asked
I
about
think
it.
that has been an issue, that whomever, the secretary or whomever, is from whatever board or commission it is, said that they would get information to us, and they have not done so. And I don't know,
Well, I hear you and I understand that, but they're not representing us either. And when
No,
I
I'm
hear
just
something
saying that
straight
the-
And I don't know anything about it. Same thing, you know, we replaced the library board member for that very reason. They weren't attending the meetings, they weren't giving us any information, so
If you
it's time.
are not receiving the minutes, I'll be glad to send you a copy. Also, if you need more information on whatever, I'll be glad to do that too.
okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
what percentage of the meetings have you attended over your past term? It sounds like you've served 3 terms, correct?
I might miss one meeting a year.
Good.
My wife get mad at me sometimes.
We late on that.
But my position is if you're doing something, do it all the way.
Amen.
I don't believe in missing my responsibilities. And anybody who know me will tell you that.
Mr. Flannery, this is a 1-year term. You said 12 years? So you've been here this long? Oh, wow, okay. Okay, any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Flournoy, what notable contribution have you committed with, contributed while you're on the transportation board that you remember?
Redevelopment Board.
Yeah.
Scratch out that, yeah.
Yeah, you got
Restate that question again.
What notable contribution have you contributed to the redevelopment
Okay.
over your 12-year period?
Okay, one major one was the baseball stadium. I took a lot of flack. Well, first time we voted on building the baseball stadium, the prices was too much, so we sent it out for bids. And I think before the second time, it was decided that the city was gonna have the baseball stadium and guarantee an opening date to the baseball team, and also guaranteed a price that if it wasn't completed by then, that they would pay the baseball team. Yeah, that was a lot of flack, but we went through it, we got it done. But I couldn't hardly stay at home either.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Flannery. Okay. Our next person is Eric Reeves.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members.
Good
Evening,
afternoon.
how are you?
Evening, it is evening. Good, thank you.
Mr. Reeves, share with us your interest in being our representative for redevelopment.
I sure will. If I can first kind of give you a little bit of my background, a couple seconds. So currently, I am an economic development practitioner and redevelopment in Chicago, in the neighborhood of Hyde Park. I work for the University of Chicago, and we're currently working with the Obama Foundation in breaking ground for the library and the University of Chicago. My background is in retail and corporate business. While in Chicago, I have, as I bring new businesses into Hyde Park, I always ask about, when I meet somebody from Walmart or Target, I say, hey, what about Gary? And I've done that for the last 3 years, just because I have access to the decision makers. My interest in being reappointed, and I'm going to ask that you reappoint me, because of my ability, my knowledge of business, and how the corporate side works, the government side works. I served as Deputy Director of Economic Development here, but we have a lot of projects in the pipeline currently that need to be moved along and congealed along, and that's my background. I have always loved business. I got a subscription of Forbes and Fortune magazine when I was 14 years old, of which I still have today. So business is business, and what happens up here equates to down here. So mom and pop can sometimes follow the corporate lead. Hope that answers your question.
Questions?
No question?
You know what? Go, I'm sorry.
Yes.
In what ways did you communicate with the council in writing to start with?
So just a couple emails, I think, to you about things that you've asked. We did have a couple meetings, but there is a breakdown in communication. You know, when you said to me, and I think Councilman Sparks Wade talked about reporting back to the council, I did ask the secretary, were you getting the minutes? She said yes. I asked the director, were you getting the minutes? And I thought that you were getting them. Now that I understand that you are not getting them, then it's an easy thing to do is not only send you the minutes, but kind of give you a recap. And as Commissioner Flournoy said, sometimes we just get the stuff to review late on Tuesday, you know, things that are going to come up on the agenda, which is not good either. I can't even digest it. But I would like on a regular basis to, you know, put out an email, hey, what do you think about this? I see it's up. Even if it comes late, I'll send it out and say, hey, this is what's coming up on the agenda. If you have, you know, comments, interest, you know, what do you like about it? But on larger things, I tend to try to, you know, in casual terms, hey, what do you think about this? If I see Councilman Brewer or somebody, but not on a regular basis. But communication needs to be improved there, absolutely.
I've heard a couple of times about things just being brought up at the spur of the moment. How often do you all send things back to have enough time to review these documents?
Probably 10 or 20%. We do not, you know, a lot of times we say we don't have enough time. We want it taken off the agenda. I'm pretty much of a stickler. If I'm not comfortable, I will say that, but, you know, it takes a consensus of the board. But I don't like to be caught by surprise. You know, there's some, well, I'll say some internal nuances that we have to work out that, you know, because there's been RFPs that are put on the street before we see them or we okay them. That's unacceptable.
And
I mean, if it has my name on it because I'm a commissioner, I don't want that.
There's some serious problems over there.
Oh, absolutely. There's,
Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't go to the attorney either.
No, and what bothers me is that whenever we question something, that the council questions something that redevelopment does, the mayor says, well, you have 2 council appointees, but we're not hearing from them. So,
And I don't want to comment to that directly, but sometimes we're caught off guard ourselves. So the council appointees, even if you called me and said, hey, Eric, what is X, Y, Z? Sometimes I'm not able to answer that because I don't know myself. You know, if you take the last RFP that we issued, it was supposed to be brought before the board, but it was put on the street before the board saw it, before the board attorney saw it. So I would not be able to tell any of you what's in it, because I was caught by surprise.
So what objections are you all having with these things? These things continue to happen. What objections are you all having by being our appointees when these things are taking place? Because I think these are very serious, and I think myself or someone from this body should have been notified because I didn't know these things of this magnitude were taking place.
So what I did was, when I was caught off guard, I sent a letter to my colleagues that it was unacceptable. You know, these are the 6 points that are egregious to me. And, you know, and then at the meeting, subsequent meeting, I said it just should not happen again, because it just, it can't. It shouldn't. Because at the end of the day, it's not a silo. It should not be a silo. It should be, you know, everybody should be rowing down the river the same way. And it's not effective if you don't know, because I serve at your behest, so you should know. And I should be voting on your behest and the constituency's behest. That's how it should go.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Reeves, okay, you just stated that you serve on our behest, and I read this quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen commentary in here from you that was very derogatory about how city works. But you're our representative, you know, so how do you respond to that? I mean, you've said some derogatory things on the internet, on Nextdoor, about I mean, pretty much everything run by the city. I mean, so why would you want to still remain on?
If you look at some of those statements,
I got it.
I've got, absolutely, but it's not, it's derogatory in my opinion as a public citizen.
You're
And
not
what-
right to say it.
And what I generally do, and not always, I put a disclaimer in that I am not speaking in my capacity as Vice President of Redevelopment. So there's no differentiation. So when I say things, they're generally, I make sure that I don't lie. I don't cast any aspersions personally on anybody. I state the facts.
But you basically stating here that it comes across like it's a bunch of bumbling idiots.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of
I
it.
said, some of your statements come across like you're working with a bunch of bumbling idiots, or the whole city is a bunch of bumbling idiots. And so my question to you is, if that is so, why would you want to remain there? I mean, I've read where you stated where, that you work in Chicago,
I do.
and,
So
pretty much everybody's here idiots, you know.
I've never used that terminology or
When it comes
vernacular.
across that way.
I've never used idiots.
I read some of this stuff.
Yeah, but I've never used the word, I've never used the
No,
word,
you did not.
I've never used the word idiots. I have never, like I said, cast any aspersions, but I can be unhappy with what goes on. So that's why I volunteer in this position to help change. Lots of people sit on the sideline and say stuff, but I take my time to volunteer and devote energies to help to rectify what I believe are differences. But I'm never going to not have an opinion on what I see.
Right.
But I'm not going to attack anybody personally. I'm not going to vilify anyone. During this whole past election, I did not personally attack a person.
No, you did not. But I guess what I'm basically saying is, if you were so disgruntled with what was occurring in redevelopment and you're our representative, you had a right and a responsibility to come and talk to us, communicate to us. You work for us.
I do.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I shouldn't be reading here to find out your opinion before you come talk to us.
Well, I don't
And some
think,
of it was very caustic.
I'd have to see exactly what you're referring to, but I don't believe that I talked about redevelopment other than commenting about what happened with the RFP ever, my colleagues.
Some of it was very caustic. I mean,
It's a matter of fact, if you know me,
Yeah.
then you know that I'm directed to the point. I don't, because I believe that I'm never gonna talk behind your back. Anything that you see I've written, I said to the person up front. It's not, it may not, sometimes the truth hurts and it doesn't feel very good, but I'm gonna call it like it is.
So is this the proper forum
As a-
to
as a-
express yourself before you talk to us? As
I
our
don't know what
representative.
instance, if there was a time, it's not my intent to put something out there before I talk to you. And I don't believe that it was an instance where I was putting out something that you should have known about, to my knowledge. The last thing I put there, I think that you're referring to perhaps, is the RFP, and I thought I had handled it internally with redevelopment. I mean, you privy to my emails, my challenges to my own board, and to the director of redevelopment and the board attorney.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Reeves, how long have you served on redevelopment?
Since 2012.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Yusetta Jackson?
See that phone? Is that water full?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Thank you.
Okay, what about Jeremiah King?
Jeremiah King.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, I'm doing.
Hey, how are you?
Good evening.
Hi.
You okay today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
How are you?
I'm great. Please share with us
Yeah, you look familiar, brother.
your interest in representing us on the redevelopment board.
So my interest in joining the redevelopment board stems from my interest in action. A lot of people have an opinion as to what's going on as it relates to the progress of the city. And a part of what I want to do, as I've voiced in conversations with many of you already, is start to take action, and I feel like this would be a great start.
Questions?
Can I ask one more? Also, I feel like my youth could provide something to the board that hasn't been provided, I guess, or hasn't been a part of the board. So that's also a plus, I feel like.
So currently you're a teacher at 21st Century?
Yes, ma'am. And I have been teaching for 3 years since I graduated undergrad from Central State University.
Okay.
Gotcha. So, one of the things that we've been discussing, and I think would be important, is the communication between our appointees and the board. Another concern I had is, I never heard anyone talk about a stop button, just stopping things, because it seemed like a lot of times when things went to the redevelopment, they just went on the path. And the other part is, I do like the idea of communicating with the council on some things that you have major concerns with by sending an email to us, and doing those updates. And I'm hoping because of your knowledge, and I've seen you do some great work in the community, that, no problem, that you would, be open to that. Because we're not micromanagers, but at the same time, the council is responsible for a lot of things that go on in the city. And we do need to be aware, and from an advisory standpoint, as well as we need to make sure that moving forward, our appointees spend a bit more time with the council, kind of explaining to them. And I think the important part of that is to actually come to the meeting and come up before the board as well as the public, and let the public see exactly what's going on as well.
So
Are you open to that?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am. One thing that I'm excited about is that I've had a chance to sit down with most of you, and we've had conversations and developed that relationship. So I don't think communication would be an issue, especially not for me. And seeing as to where I'm at in my life right now, in terms of I pushed into action, but I'm in full mode to do, not talk. So I feel like that won't be an issue as well. Being at meetings and communicating those won't be issues for me.
I do. I just want to clear it for the record that we're not advocating for ex post communication, ex post facto communications with individual council members, because of course that would violate open door. I believe the sentiment of the council is that the individuals either get with the committee chair, or would then schedule a meeting. All communication should be in the public forum. I just want to put that out there. They're not advocating that you poll individual council.
For sure.
No.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. King, what kind of experience do you have with economic development?
Economic development. Where I'm a political science major, whereas of course we take econ classes, so I learned a lot there, as well as financial literacy being a pillar of my nonprofit. So as well I'm learning the financial circumstances of the city, I feel like those would be important too, as a part of the commission if I'm selected.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
No other questions? All right, thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you guys.
Okay.
For sure.
Adam Paul. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good evening.
Hi. Please share with us your interest in representing us on redevelopment.
I am a more recent immigrant to Gary. I've lived here for just a couple of years now. And during that time, I've discovered a lot of the potential that exists within the existing infrastructure and some of the elements that need more work in that area, and I would like to do what I can to contribute to that. I have a long background in real estate, finance, a bachelor's in economics and a master's in real estate development, with my resume, to see all the things I've done. And the last few years, I've devoted myself to giving back. I have a nonprofit and do housing work in some other countries. And my intent is to live here the rest of my life, so I want this to be the best place it can be. I'm very happy about the national park designation recently. I see the potential in the airport, the port, and multimodal facilities. And I want to do what I can to contribute to that, and I think I have the experience and the background and capabilities to do that.
Questions?
Madam Chair, have you been observing some of the commission's meetings that they've been having? Are you aware of it? Those
Yes,
meetings?
some.
And watching those meetings and what have you, and seeing how the board performs, what are some of your suggestions moving forward to make the board more effective?
I hadn't really sort of looked at it in that context when I was attending meetings. It does sound like you all have a bit of a communications problem. I have experience in solving communications problems. I've even done academic work in social network analysis and applied that at when I worked at the bank to allow everyone to better understand what was going on, have access to information, transparency, where it's important, privacy where that is required. I'm very good at fixing problems as well as identifying them, so I think I can, over a short period of time, lend my assistance to whatever solutions look like they would be most applicable.
Thank you very much. You have a very impressive history.
Any other questions?
It looks like you have pretty extensive financial background with this 2000 and 2006 IndyMac Bank. So you know the basics of the financial institutions and do you understand how the redevelopment department does the TIFs, the tax increment financing? You understand that part of
Yeah.
financing? Okay.
I first worked with the Los Angeles Community Redevelopment Agency back in '83, and we had some major projects. In fact, we were innovative in the use of air rights and such things.
Air rights with regard to the oceanfront, or was it?
No, that was development in downtown. I was the LA representative for the bank I worked for at Crocker Center, which is the buildings you see at the beginning of Law and Order.
Yeah. And then I see you had some experience with, you were a personal assistant to a mayor
Yes.
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, and it says you prepared the work for the council?
No, I helped prepare him with some of his work and
2%.
advised him on some of the financial and real estate issues that came up. And I had previously been on the planning commission in Bellevue, Wisconsin, which at the time was the fastest growing town in Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Councilman Smith?
Yes, Madam Chair, okay. I noticed in your letter that you indicate that you have talked to Mayor Freeman Wilson about ongoing projects. Just give us
Casual
some-
conversations.
Casual.
She actually, during the election campaign season, she came to our house, door to door, and talked with her there. And I've met her on a couple of occasions socially and
Okay.
have talked about that.
Okay, so just some of the projects that are out there, like the one that was in reference to Lake Street Beach. And I believe there is an RFP out, or it's for sale?
Yes, RFP.
Yes. What are your thoughts? Just
On that RFP in particular?
yeah, on the sale of, is it something you would have supported, or just casually, what are your thoughts on something like that?
The right proposal would be a benefit to the community there. I mean, it could use more traffic, more things to do, more destination type of activities. At the same time, the national park is you know, a treasure and now recognized by the country, so it isn't something that we want to abuse in any way. That Lake Street and that whole entrance, in fact, is, you know, that's what people are gonna see. When they get off the freeway, first they have to drive by an awful old hotel that's run down, and you know, these are things that are not benefiting
Right.
our city, and I think, you know, perhaps there's a way of working even with the federal government on doing things to enhance the symbiosis between the city and the national park.
I guess my last question to you would be, if you disagreed with it, would you communicate to us differently? I mean, would you communicate that to us?
Oh, yeah. I'm known for speaking my
So
mind.
you would actually be a member that would tell us your thoughts, since you were an appointee.
The reason to be on the commission.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought too. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I very much have my own mind on things.
Right, and
I
that's
mean, I
okay.
like to, you know, work in a consensus. I was vice chair of the industry group that set up the mortgage standards in the banking industry. So
Yeah.
I can work very well with groups of people, but I also have my own. In fact, the reason I didn't become chairman of that organization when asked was because the chairman couldn't intercede individually on representing their company, and vice chair could, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Our last person, David Fawcett.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Attorney.
Hello.
Know this position.
Fawcett.
How are you today?
Great.
Hi.
I'm Barnes Caldwell. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
Please share with us your interest in representing us.
My name is David Fawcett, and I'm from the city of Gary. Born and raised here, and went to college and school and educated, and I moved to Los Angeles. I stayed out there for some years, and I came back to take care of my mom since she passed. I was thinking of moving. I've been over in London, living over there, working and doing some things with my family. And I came back here and retired from U.S. Steel. I'm currently a loss control rep for the insurance company. And I wanted to give my help to the city of Gary. I got a lot of people on my Rolodex that I've been calling, and one of the persons I called was Maggie Johnson. I got him here to come to Gary back in, I think it was 2002 or somewhere around there. I got him to come back here, but communication between the city and him fell apart, and he didn't bring the projects here to Gary. But I would really like to open that Rolodex back up and try and get some development going here, because we really need something besides fish places and gas stations. And I mean, you know, I hate to have to drive 14 miles to get a cup of coffee, and you know, or other than going to a gas station. So I would like to extend myself in the development. I was on the Economic Development Board, and then I was replaced. And so now I'm trying to get on the Development Board to try and help the city.
Questions?
So
you bring different to the board that we have not, from what we see now? What you bring different?
Well, I'm not extensively studied your board positions or who was on the board, but one of the things that's sitting in the back listening is that the communication part. And another thing is just to have a list of what properties and everything that we do have in the city available to tell to people that I know that this is available, can you come in and develop it? You know, that's one of the things I can bring to it. And other thing is just to help mature the city with what we can do to develop these properties.
Madam Chair, how long were you on the Economic Development Council?
About
4 years or whatever.
I can't remember the year. I was on there about 2 years. 2 years. I was one of the persons that the bank was on Fifth and Broadway.
I didn't hear you. Say that again?
I was on the board when we got that bank on Fifth and Broadway.
Madam Chair? Yes, sir. Because I was going to ask you what notable contribution had you made on the Economic Development Board? And, yeah, just that right there.
Yeah, well, like I said,
I know you run. And you've got an extensive role today.
Yeah.
So I want to hear some contributions.
Well, one of the things, our hands were very tied on the economic board. We couldn't really do too much. All we could do is just listen to when people brought and wanted, you know, to use TIF money and use bonds and things, and we fought over that bank and the restaurant right here. I forgot the name of it.
R&R?
Who?
R&R?
No, I was before that.
Dusty's.
Dusty's and all that, and then there was a big thing with that, so other than that, that's about it.
No other questions? All right, Mr. Parker, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We would like to thank all the citizens for coming out, showing their interest in representing us on the redevelopment board. And we will conclude this meeting at this time. Thank you.